Hello everyone, Amethyst here. As you all know by now, 2020 has been a very shitty year. Like many of you, I was hoping that this year would be a good year. Then bad things kept happening one by one. I was a senior in high school hoping to get my life together after I graduate. I had no interest in going to college. All I wanted to do was work so that I could save up money to move out and live on my own. I am currently doing that now. As a matter of fact, I'm waiting to get more emails from the place that I'm working at. But the journey up until this point has been rough, harder than it was before the pandemic. I haven't been making videos due to the COVID transition and lack of motivation. I couldn't make videos that I wanted to have my voice in, like Let's Play videos, due to the fact that everyone was home. Mostly my younger sisters would be home and I would babysit while my mom worked, and there was no quiet time during the day for me to record. I like making MMD videos, but I love making my Let's Plays a lot more, even though I get nervous speaking. The lack of motivation from school has also contributed to my lack of videos. My mental health was pretty much shit already, especially from online school. After finally graduating in July, I found myself helpless than I already was previously because I was still babysitting my little siblings, still dependent on my mom to pay me for that. I never wanted to babysit, even if I was gonna get paid for it. When I was in middle school, I had no choice but to, while my mom worked during the night. I hated it. I basically became a mom while she was pretty much absent. It was a lot for me. Last year, at a point where mom needed to find a babysitter, I made it clear that I didn't want to babysit, but she guilt tripped me, saying about how much he does for me and yada yada. Either way, I didn't have a choice. During the summer of last year, though, I offered to babysit because I wanted to earn money. Mom wouldn't have to worry about babysitting, and my younger sisters wouldn't have to go to that babysitter that they were currently going to, where the house was filthy and one of them developed a fungus and severe allergies due to it. But I only wanted to do it for the summer, though, since school was out. I had no choice but to keep babysitting on weekends after that. Since then, I had relied on my mom to pay me, since I wasn't getting money from anywhere else besides attempting to make some by doing gigs on Fiverr. At this point, basically since my mom complains about money a lot, I'm tired of relying on her for money. I really hoped that by this point I would have already found a job saving up money for when I need to move out. But in addition to my current struggles for the past 4 or 5 months, I wanted to talk about my struggles in general and be a bit more open about my mental health. It has been affecting me for a long time, affecting my way of life, just how I do things. And since last year, it got to the point where I can't do certain things as effectively as I used to the point where my art activity dropped to almost nothing, only drawing very little between every 2 months or more. To the point where I found myself even more glued to my laptop playing video games and just feeling miserable about life. This is going to be a long video, and I'm not going to sugarcoat everything. I'll try to cut out unnecessary things, but I want to explain as much as I can about how I got to this state. I grew up in an abusive household. I'll just say that straight and plainly. But initially, when I was a lot younger, up until first grade, it wasn't like that. Life until then was great. My dad back then was the best. Mom was too. I only got spanking when I was being a brat, and even then, that was only rarely. I wasn't a child who gave a lot of trouble. Even when I was a quiet kid, I still made some friends and actively talked to them. Had play dates. I wasn't afraid of participating in events at class, asking the teacher for help. I barely remember the days of daycare and preschool, but of those memories, they were fun, happy. If that continued, I would have been a different person now, but that wasn't the case. I was around 8 years old when this happened. My family was living in a house in Georgia. All the bedrooms, apart from the guest bedroom, were upstairs. One morning, me and my sister awoke to a loud noise and then shouting. Naturally, we got up from our beds and found ourselves looking over from the stairs to see my dad run into the guest bedroom, with my mom chasing him with a lamp without its shade in her hand. Dad closes the door to the bedroom and Mom smashes the door with the lamp, yelling, "You raped me," over and over. She runs away, and soon after the door breaks into pieces. She runs away, and soon after the door breaks into pieces and falls to the floor. My dad comes out and walks towards the living room. At this point, my sister and I were walking down the stairs, shocked at the fact that this was even happening. By the time we were on the second floor, making our way through the living room, we could see that they were both in the garage, and Mom is throwing punches at my dad. Eventually, Mom makes her way outside and calls police. After realizing that she was, I turned my attention to Dad, who was already on the phone with someone, claiming that he didn't rape her. Next thing you know, my sister and I are freaking out, banding together to try and protect Dad, and soon the police arrive at the house. Time passes, and the next thing I remember is being in my room with one of my aunts and looking out my bedroom window to see if police cars outside. I can't remember the days before we moved into a new apartment with Mom, away from Dad. After that incident, the abuse started. Mom was miserable, and when Dad would come over, there were times where they would fight. At times, she would spank us when we didn't deserve it. Like with homework, if we didn't understand a question, she would hit us for it. She also started warning us about men and the terrible things that would happen to little girls, sometimes going into detail about it. It scared me so much that I would watch my sister like a hawk, making sure that nothing happened to her. She would often tease me by running around the stores when we were out, and I would chase after her trying to keep her close, fearing that one second she would be taken away by some kidnapper. Mom, for some reason, though, didn't do anything about it. Sometimes out of annoyance, she would say things along the lines of, "Leave her alone, she'll see what happens," or would just flat out ignore my attempts of asking her to keep an eye on my sister. She was like that with a lot of things with my sister, spoiling her, letting her get away with murder, while I worry. And that spoiling only got worse as we got older. She started piling responsibility on me, my sister not doing anything, something she doesn't even know how to do, like cook, or can't clean well because of this. Before the incident in the house, she had told me about strangers when I was telling Mom that someone was at the door, and I attempted to see who it was. But she did it in a way that didn't involve so much detail. That didn't scare me. All I did was watch the stranger from the window until he walked away. There wasn't any fear in me. I didn't know what I was feeling when she told me, but after that house incident, she started going too far with the warnings to a point where I was afraid of the world. I remember that there would be times that my mom would even involve the babysitter at the time into her issues with Dad. There would be an incident where my mom didn't want to know where we were, and we were with the babysitter at the time. I also remember the times where when problems occur, Dad would use us to try and gather information on what's going on at home, or would just ask him to tell him something because she refuses to talk to him. These are just some of the things that would happen during the remaining days of living in Georgia. There's just so much that at times I remember incidents that may not be mentioned here that I have forgotten. After finishing elementary school, my mom separated my sister and I from our dad completely, moving us to Long Island, New York, for 3 years. When we first got there, Mom said that we were just visiting family, but later we figured out that we were moving there and staying there. We were upset because we wanted to be able to see Dad. At first we lived with our uncle, first taking our room upstairs and then living in the garage that he converted into a small living space. While living there, I had my first realization that my mom doesn't care about my feelings. My sister was struggling to do her homework. Mom was spanking her because she couldn't understand the questions. It wasn't right, so I stood up saying, "Why do you have to hit us? You've never been there for us." She first hits me on the face, and then says something like, "I'm your mother, listen to me," or something like that. After that, she prevented me from drawing or doing anything, and at that point I felt like self-harming. Time passes and we move into another project. There was one point in time where we were cleaning out papers, and at one point Mom was forcing us to throw out our diaries, our only source of expression, given that we couldn't express ourselves to her. I kept the pages that I thought were important. I still have them to this day. Due to that, as well as my mom's negative reactions every time she saw me writing it, it led me to stop writing in diaries. Gradually, until 2 years ago, I turned to my art more to express my feelings. More time passes, and somewhere between the births of our younger two siblings, my sister started displaying symptoms of depression and started self-harming. A few times she had to be transported to the hospital. I don't remember how mom handled it the first time, but everything after, she started verbally abusing her, refusing to listen to how she feels, and at one time spanked her. Due to this, Dad tried getting involved as well as Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services did nothing really, which is sad, but then the foster care system in America is also bad, so I guess things wouldn't have gotten better either way. There were issues where my mom would be very controlling with how we spoke to him. It's a lot of little issues that don't really need to be explained, but eventually Dad had to file custody for us. Mom was making it like everyone was the enemy, especially the lawyer for me and my sister. But my sister and I wanted to live with our dad, so we moved with him. And soon our stepmom and stepbrother moved in as well. Finally, we thought that we could be able to have our voices heard and feel like we matter. But nope. Early on, my sister and I realized that our dad and stepmother didn't allow us to have a voice either, and it only got worse over time. We were first living in New Jersey when my sister and I had this realization, and then moved to Pennsylvania because my dad was offered a teaching position at this prestigious private school there. At first, it was planned that I would go to the school there since I had very good grades, either in my AP classes. But then my sister and stepbrother ended up going there as well. Because the school was a really good academic school, of course the work is going to be harder. But as smart as I was, it was really hard trying to juggle everything. I stayed up late at night trying to finish homework after sports. I didn't like the idea that I had to take a sport and Dad wasn't helping either, especially when I was having difficulty with my winter sport, volleyball. I don't work well in a team, and I don't complain with tennis because it's not a team sport, and I like tennis, still do. As well, at some point, I started drinking coffee to keep me awake, and even the coffee eventually stopped working for me. I ended up changing out for my French 4 class, and even during that, my dad and stepmom wouldn't allow me to properly express my feelings. There was one time I was hospitalized due to my deteriorating mental health. Sometimes staying home from school due to the stress, with one time where I gave in to my dad wanting me to go to school. He then stops me, saying that he doesn't want me to embarrass him. I was stressed at school, and I started not loving to learn anything, especially since once you enter high school, it's all about college and this and that. My dad wasn't treating my sister any better either, often making her feel like because she's a child, she is dumb, or she has no option, no, or she has no opinion or voice. His response would be to stay in her lane, or to stay in your lane, when she would try to say her feelings, even if he did something that made her upset, like being rude to her stepmom or stepbrother. And I have seen it happen. One time I tried defending her, and I was met with his aggression. There was one incident after winter break. During the break, we were visiting our mom, but we haven't tried talking to our dad or stepmother or brother during the break. The day that our mom dropped us off, it was late, and it was a Saturday, and we were tired. There wasn't anyone home, but we had the keys to get in. We wanted to get in the bed, so we tried to hurry up and get in the bed. I was in my bed, and my sister was washing up. Soon our stepmother and stepbrother came in, and soon after that, Dad called to tell me to go downstairs because our room was on the second floor and interact with them. I was really tired and I didn't want to be in the house, to be honest, and I said to them that I was tired and we do have tomorrow. Me and my sister could spend the day with them and talk. I wasn't being aggressive on the phone or anything, yet my dad was. It was triggering my anxiety, so without hanging up, I just put the phone down. Instead of trying to negotiate with me, he chose to shout and be aggressive on the phone. He called my sister to tell her to give me the phone so that he could talk to me. I refused because he was still being aggressive and my anxiety was already high. My sister ends up crying due to the stress, but soon we go to bed. But literally, Dad comes from work, while he was still working in fact, just to aggressively wake us up and talk to us about not interacting. He claims that he wasn't being aggressive on the phone, but I disagreed, and he comes back with his aggression. He was triggering my anxiety again, and I wasn't going to sit there. I wanted to get out of the room and separate myself from him. But instead of allowing me to cool off, he tries to prevent me from going outside by blocking me from the door, further making me more anxious, and at this point I didn't feel safe in the house. After some struggle, he let me outside, and I called my mom and told her what happened, and she was surprised. I ended up being outside for a long time, and since it was dark and cold, my stepmom and sister were trying to keep me back inside. I didn't want to go back inside. I was used to the spanking, but the way my dad handled me, I was uncomfortable, especially since I wasn't trying to argue with him from the beginning. My mom says that I should call for help. I was scared to do so, but because everyone kept increasing my anxiety, I ended up calling the police. My stepmom tried to take the phone away from me, but I ran further down the street. Soon they came and I told them the situation. Since I was a minor at that time, I couldn't really go anywhere with them, so they said that my mom would come and pick me up, and in the meantime my dad wouldn't bother me while I waited inside. He still went and bothered me. There's still more things that happen, but I'll just say eventually I moved back with my mom. I wanted my sister to come with me because my dad verbally abuses her, but even he wasn't allowing her to make the decision to move back, even though she made the decision that she wanted to move with him when the whole custody thing happened. Just because she was a child, she stifled her voice, and she lived with him until she moved back in with me and mom during the start of this year. Even now, Dad still talks about and to her like her feelings don't matter. He still doesn't listen. My sister and I hoped that Dad would be the person who would make us feel like we mattered, but he turned out to be just as bad as Mom. Both of them has issues. At the time, I thought even though Mom was abusive, at least she wasn't naggy and aggressive like his dad, and that she would say whatever hurtful thing she wanted, but would leave us alone. But recently, she started becoming Dad, the same person she couldn't stand. During the past 2 years living back with Mom, my mental health was at a low. I had no motivation for school, art, I was a zombie at my laptop. There isn't much to say at this point other than a few incidents where my mom would shame my feelings, saying that I'm ungrateful when I didn't feel like doing anything, or yell at me when I didn't feel like going to school. One time, she kicked me out of the house for not wanting to talk to her about my mental health. I didn't want to engage in her yelling because A, she was making a fuss over nothing, and B, her once again shaming my feelings. I didn't decide I was going to waste my energy, but then threatened to call the cops if I didn't go back inside when I wasn't doing anything but staying outside in the rain all the way down the road, not being a disturbance to anyone. And another time, I ran away after Mom yells at me again and turns off the Wi-Fi during one of my days to not want to go to school, and I was hospitalized later that day. Most times I wouldn't talk to her because I know that she's not the person I would come to for talking about anything really, and there was that babysitting nonsense that I already mentioned at the start. Fast forward to now, as I am writing this, it is September 22nd, 2020, and I have further problems with my mom leading me to be hospitalized again. This situation is long in itself too, but basically my sister and I ended up arguing with our mother after she started calling my sister names and accusing her friends for her getter behavior while me and my sister were arguing because I said that she doesn't help out enough in the house. My sister isn't ghetto, far from it. The reason she gravitates towards her friends is because my mom failed to be the person she could come to, talk to. She needed someone. When we were both telling her the truth when we say that Mom has abused us for years and that she has no right to shame her friends, especially since they helped her with her mental issues, and she fails to not and you fail to not ignore our feelings. She threatens to kick me out, especially since I'm not on the lease anymore, since she had to make room for my sister because she moved in and needed to be registered at school where we lived, and I'm 18. She cuts off the Wi-Fi in my sister's phone, and at this point, I'm on my dad's phone plan, so that my mom can't cut my phone off. I ended up calling Dad, telling him the situation. Next morning, she's still on her tirade and even has the audacity to say that we don't know what abuse is, especially me, and calling me slow. Later that day, I decided not to contribute anymore, and as I'm not responding to her calls for me to do the dishes, she becomes aggressive, shouting at me, calling me names, and at this point, trying to push me off the bed, lifting up the mattress, putting her hands on me, aggressively pulling me off the bed, even while my sister is trying to calm and block her, creating such a fuss that one, and she was creating such a fuss that one of the little ones comes in and tries to stop her too. I called the police due to the fact that mom put her hands on me and even was trying to push me out of the house as I'm trying to separate from her as the person on the line told me to do. Once the police come, tell them the situation. They ask if I can be taken to the hospital to talk to someone, and I eventually agree, and here I am. What's funny is that that I learned about me not being on the lease the same day that she did this shit, and while we were talking then, she was saying that she wasn't thinking about me moving out, especially because I mentioned that it was probably a sign for me to earn money and move out, and that it was hard living on your own, especially in New Jersey, and that if anyone asks, say that I'm just visiting. At this point, I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter by my parents. I'm tired of giving in and being controlled by someone who truly doesn't give a damn about how I feel and my well-being. I'm tired of these empty sorries and thank yous. I have decided that if they're going to continue to disrespect me and not make me feel like I matter to them, then I won't give them the respect. All the suffering that I've gone through, all the pressure, all the hurt, it wasn't worth it. I defended them, I listened to them, I was empathetic towards them, and they didn't do the same. At this point in time, I told my mom that if I was going to live with her and do what I have to do while living there, that I want respect in return. She wasn't going to take the time to listen to what I have to say. Like, if she isn't going to take the time, then she should say nothing, because I helped out so much and I continue to be treated like just another person in the house and another daughter that she cares about. If I don't get respect, I will leave and move in with my dad, and I plan on saying this to my dad as well, but at least so far he hasn't threatened to kick me out or anything since I used to live with him. Like, while I was living with him, he hasn't threatened to kick me out or anything while arguing, but as much as he is being all nice and helpful now, I don't trust him. I don't trust either of my parents, not anymore. All I want from them now is respect, and if they want to help me financially or for something else, that would be their decision, and also whether or not I want their help. I have trusted that they would be the person I would come to when I needed them the most, and they failed. They failed as parents, and as soon as I'm able to live completely independently, they'll never hear from me again. There have been people who have abused my parents, and I hope, and I'm and I'm very annoyed, like mad that these things happen to them, and I hope that their abusers get the utmost punishment, suffering that the universe can give them. But what I'm really annoyed with is that not to they decided to continue this cycle of abuse, not even then not taking responsibility for it. It's most notable for my mom, when we would tell her these situations where she would abuse us or these events. She would claim that she doesn't remember. And honestly, since our last argument, she hasn't said anything. She had nothing to say. She pretty much acts as if she cares, but in reality, all she wants is control. All she wants is power. I guess it's probably her way of making herself feel better. I guess, especially since she didn't really have a lot of power in her life. But now that she is an independent woman, pretty much in control of everything, she just seems to have. I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I'm just talking or other parts I've already written it down, and you know, I've even right now I've been trying to wait for more emails from my job, and I've also been looking at apartments to see where I could live should the time come. I plan on living there. I hope that by 4 or 6 months, 4, 5, 6 months from now, I probably would have moved out. I don't know when I will make another video. Probably, most likely, if I make another video, I would have already have a place of my own. But if not, I will make sure to update you guys on that situation. I'm really annoyed that after all these years, I pretty much been made out that I don't matter, that my sister doesn't matter, that our opinions have basically been worthless and they don't matter. And this mindset that because I'm your parent, because I put a roof over your head, because you're living with me and whatever, you have no rights to anything, you have no power, and it's sad, especially even though now I am legally an adult, and if she wants to keep me out, I'll have no choice but to comply. But on an ethical state, she knows how hard it is living in New Jersey. She knows especially that it's COVID time, and she also knows that I am making the effort to support myself. It's just a lot harder, especially since she has pretty much restricted us from doing anything else ever since that house incident. She wouldn't allow us to have play dates. She would scare me. She would scare us. Because of this, we are scared to do things by ourselves. We're scared to experience the world for ourselves, and it's honestly difficult. And she refuses to acknowledge the abuse. She refuses to properly give like a genuine sorry, because all her sorries has only been after we are leaving her or a bad situation and blah blah blah. And honestly, I don't have any respect for her anymore. I don't have any love for her anymore. I don't have anything for her anymore. I don't have anything for my dad either. But what I can do now is just work, save money, and when the time comes, I move out. Hopefully, it's sooner than later, but until then, I can only hope for the best. So, if there is anyone who is watching, who is hearing this, I mean, you don't have to, but if you made it this far, I very appreciate it for listening to me. But yeah, I don't really have anything to say at this point, because I was, you know. But yeah, well, I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye.